Hi, everybody. We all have some sense of self doubt. It's that nagging inner voice that makes us question our abilities. Left unchecked, it acts as a self imposed limitation that can hold us back from realizing our true ability to support our young people. For sure, self doubt is a complex emotion and it varies from person to person. In a mild form, it shows up as an occasional hesitation or fleeting moments of uncertainty, which can be a natural and healthy part of decision making and our self reflection. However, on the more extreme end of the spectrum, severe self doubt can become a paralyzing thing. It negatively affects one's self esteem and confidence. This often leads to chronic anxiety and a profound fear of failure, impacting our overall well being. You're likely supporting young people right now with significant self doubt. Your role in supporting them is critical to transforming their self doubt into self confidence. And you do this through your unwavering support and positive self regard you show them. Our guest for this episode is Esha Abdallah Muhammad from Mombasa, Kenya. Esha's journey is a remarkable testament to the transformative power of support and resilience. As a child plagued by extreme self doubt, she found comfort and guidance in her mother's unwavering belief in her potential. Because of that support, Esha gradually emerged from her shadows of self doubt. Now she is channeling her personal triumph into a mission to empower girls worldwide as a board member for Plan International and as the director of Her Narrative. Esha is helping to build up young girls, instilling in them the self confidence and determination she once lacked. You'll find her story inspirational, and her support for young people serves as proof to the profound change a trusting, caring adult makes in the lives of young people. Ready to meet her? Esha, thanks for being a guest on the Passionate Youth Worker podcast.
Thank you so much, Paul. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you're welcome. And, your mother sounds like a remarkable person.
Yeah.
Will you please just talk a little bit about her so the audience and our listening members can hear and learn more about her?
My mother is fast, charming, and very thoughtful. Growing up, I had a bit of self-esteem, not even a bit, I have so much self-esteem issues because of one, I grew up very chubby and also very dark-skinned, and it slowly made me not feel as if that I'm beautiful enough or I can't stand up for myself. So she'd usually remind me of my worth and who I am and what I'm capable of, and it did wonders for me, Paul. And to that, I still go to my mother when I am low, and she has a way to make me feel better. And I think I'm living some of her dreams because she never finished school for her. So I am doing extra to ensure that I am able to at least become a better person because that is what she wants.
She does sound like that one person we all need in our lives because sometimes we're just born with these insecurities, and the support of somebody can really make a difference. Why do you think your mom had such a deep sense of belief in you? What did she see? Did she know you were capable of better things? Or is she just such a caring person that she just loved you regardless of any doubt you might have had?
For me, I believe through her story or her journey while she was growing up, she did not receive that extra support as she's giving to me. And I
Oh,
think as human beings, we tend to give to others most of the time what maybe we were not able to get, especially to the kids that we have or people that we care so much deeply with. So what I learned from her journey is there are certain things that she was not able to get because she was a girl. Like schooling, she had to leave school for the brothers to go to school. Like even work, it took her a while. She was to get married very early. Took her a lot of determination to tell her parents that she doesn't want to get married. So those are the things that enable her to ensure that me personally and my brothers and sisters go to a better school. see learning in a different perspective, and even focus and push ourselves to become better people. So I learned something. Sometimes lacking does not mean you push other people to also lack, but ensure that you other people don't live the way that you lived. Yeah.
It's so great that she saw what she missed and turned around and gave that directly to you.
Mm.
When your self-confidence was low as a child, how bad was it? Did you have trouble in school? Did you have trouble playing with friends? How bad was your self-esteem?
It was really bad. I remember when I used to go out, people would point fingers and say, "You're really chubby, you're dark skinned, you're not as beautiful." And they didn't want to have that conversation with me. And I felt really alone. So coming back home, these are things that would put my mind into test, and I would cry a lot. So each day I'd ask my mother, why did she give birth to me dark and chubby? Because at some point people would say maybe I had got their contraceptives that increases someone else's body, so they think that maybe I'm doing that, and it wasn't, because I was just in grade 5, that is class 5 this other side. But then my periods came really early, and they came with a lot of weight and all that, so it took a while for me to accept. But I believe because of the support and seeing that whenever I come to her crying, she'll tell me, no, don't worry, you're beautiful, and everything is going to work out for you. And it actually did, because when I got to high school, my body started shaping itself up, and I started listening to what my mother told me, like I'm beautiful, and taking confidence in that. And it changed a whole lot in terms of myself and how I look at myself, and even my visions. Yeah.
That is a wonderful story, and you're so full of confidence now, and the work you're doing to try to instill that in other people is
Yeah.
very admirable. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing a little bit about your mother. How about your father? Was he very supportive too, or did he take a different approach?
I take my father is a protective father. I grew up in a purely African community or African household, and fathers tend to be very, I'd say protective, because I don't have another word to have it, where they'll take time to understand and take time to give you that opportunity. They give you an opportunity, but they look at it in another eye. So now growing up, that is what I saw, because he was trying to protect me from such things that maybe might harm me. And I remember when I started volunteering, I did volunteer at Kenya Red Cross at the age of 18, very early. That is how my love for
Hmm.
community work started, and working with young people. So at that particular moment, when I used to go and volunteer, and I did during the COVID-19 era. So we used to go till late, and my father will tell me, no, 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 you can't go. You have to stay here. And I was very passionate, very loving. I wanted to go out. Everyone was going to support the community. And then here he is telling me, if you go out, we'll have trouble in this house. So
Hmm.
me in a situation feeling that, oh, my father doesn't care, doesn't see my journey as a person, my path and all that. But then looking at it backwards now, I'm like, my father actually loved me. He just didn't want me to be among the people, for example, that would die with COVID-19 at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
He loved me in a different way. They're not those people that would tell you I love you, but their actions will actually prove that they loved you. So now currently he's very supportive. He asks me questions. He wants to know what I'm doing. He'd ask for advice. And I think I am happy now, because I understand him at that particular of what he was doing. But then I used not to see that he's supporting me and all that. Yeah.
Sounds like you had a great set of parents who really did have your best interest in mind at all times and just displayed that a little differently.
Mm.
You talked about your love for working with young people started when you were a volunteer at the Red Cross. Can you talk a little bit about why young people seemed like such a good fit for you?
Because of the challenges that we go through as young people, it's really hard for you to penetrate in spaces. People look at you with another eye, like, what can you even tell us? What do you even have to offer? Especially where I come from, where a young person,
Mhm.
you cannot speak where elders are there at that particular moment. I remember even this year, we were reminded of where we came from, because now, as I advise then you couldn't advise such organizations, big organization. What are you telling them? So my passion came with that. There was a gap. And I felt, especially for young women and girls like myself, where in these spaces we rarely are seen taking up spaces or debating or having conversation that actually matter. And I wanted to change that particular narrative. And then for me, so I had to involve myself, because if we do not see people like myself in such spaces, then no one is going to dream that that can actually happen, right? So
Yeah.
I started volunteering and then championing through my organization later on, after volunteering for a while and gathering experience, now starting my own organization called Her Narrative, and sharing experiences of girls and young women they go through. We go through gender-based violence, that is harassment in such spaces. And when someone see Esha at that particular position now that I sit in board, the first thought that they think is, no, she doesn't even have the capacity. Probably they slept with someone or they're with someone. There's always that connotation or narrative when it comes to young people in spaces that has never gotten away, and mine was to change that, to ensure that when we're in spaces, we're actually articulating issues and people are now like, oh, Esha is there. Okay, let's ask now. I know the questions are going to come. What am I going to say? Young people are here and we need to hear the voices of the young people. What do they have to say? Kenya currently, 70% of the population is made up of young people, but
Hmm.
we are never there, right? Yeah.
Forgive me for asking because I'm just unaware, but in Mombasa and Kenya in general, is there a lot of support for young people, or are there a lot of young people going without a caring relationship with a trusting adult?
So the support is there, but there's a lot that has to be done with the support.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, where I'm saying that, like for example, in Mombasa, we are still working to have a youth policy in place, and these are very, very important frameworks for young people if you're looking at them participating or even sharing their voices. If there is no policy framework, then there's no way you're going to hold anyone accountable. See? So the government is trying, but I think they need to do better. In terms of ensuring that the voices of young people are heard. We have rates, for example, in Mombasa again, we are seeing the unemployment rates are actually high. Even in Kenya, there are videos circulating of young people from Kenya during this year when there was what is called massive recruitment for KDF, that is Kenya Defense Forces, and young people came in huge numbers, and they just wanted a very few number of people. So the unemployment rate is high, and a
Hmm.
little is done. The funding is there, but it's loan. Young people look at the loan and say, really, can how will I even be able to sustain that particular loan? You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think there is a lot that the government can do. To ensure that the voices of young people are heard, and also to ensure that young people are not just staying at home and increasing a number of vices, but they are taken in and absorbed in various opportunities so that they can utilize this energy that we have at this particular level.
What do you think that has? What kind of impact does that have on the young people there? Are they feeling a sense of hopelessness, a sense of doubt, or is there a basic sense of optimism for the future? What would you say?
I think as of now is a sense of doubt, because we are from the elections currently that was last year, and the candidates or the politicians shared a number of their manifestos saying that they put young people at the center and all that and all that. But 1 year down the line, we are not seeing a number of things coming out. Probably they're doing
Mm,
that in the works. You never know, because they'd say we are still handling at this level. Things are going to come out a bit later on, but then young people are desperate to see what life has in store for them, are desperate to get opportunities, are desperate to be employed somewhere, because when you finish it, I finished my university at the age of 22, and then here when you have gone to the university, there's that mindset that you have to go get employed immediately. So now when you were 3 years, it took me a while before I'm employed. I just got employed this year. So I finished my university in 2019. My first employment got this year. The other ones are just volunteering opportunities. So imagine for a young person who everyone thought that when they finish their degree, they immediately get employment and then they don't get
Sure.
employment. You see?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that comes with that, especially with expectations that we have from our parents and communities. So now we end up doing other things, and then leading to a lot, either increased gang violence, increased use of drug abuse within the society, people looking at a lot, or they're looking very desperate because they have nothing else to do, increased suicidal cases. This year we saw a young man who is in the university actually die by suicide. They burned themselves alive just to bring out that statement to the government saying that no, 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 these things where we are currently is not good for our country. So if a young man who is in the university can burn themselves alive just to prove a point, then it means there is a lot that has to be done. Yeah.
It sure sounds like it. And it's hard to believe, but we need to take a short break already. But when we come back, I want to ask you some more specific questions about your work with young people. So we'll be right back. Esha, right before the break, I was talking about asking you some questions specifically to your work with young people. I'm
Hmm.
wondering, when you meet a young person who's down on their confidence, feeling like there isn't a lot of hope for the future, and what do you do to try to inspire those people to have the resilience and the belief in themselves that you had to learn how to overcome? How do you go about helping young people?
One is sharing my story. I love storytelling. I love storytelling. I love sharing
Well, you're
stories.
good at it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I talk a lot. So for me is to share stories, and we rarely hear people that who have been in that position talk a lot about their stories. So I tell them of where I am, and I did that this year again in one of an activity that we had, and some people actually cried because of the things that I go through before I get these opportunities, or I start advocating, or until where I am. And then after that, I try to share referrals or opportunities that they could apply, or places that they could go to, or organizations that work around young people to support them. Because sometimes young people lack information. They don't know who to go to. They don't know where to go to. They don't know even how to navigate. So when they get such spaces, and I was that young person that I didn't know, where do I go to? Who do I have that conversation with that can support me? So I try to show them that these spaces, it's not that we don't have opportunities, it's because that the information about these opportunities we don't have. So then how do you ensure that you have that information so that you can pick and choose and say this is better for me than this? Yeah. So those are the two things that I do, because I don't have a background on issue psychology, so I don't do a lot of counseling, but I do referrals in case one needs that. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that stuff is universal, no matter where young people are growing up. They all need that kind of information and that kind of support and the infrastructure around them to help them have a positive youth development. And I know that you have had a lot of people in your life that have helped you. What do you think is the biggest compliment somebody's ever given you?
Uh, Thank you for that. I think I've had a number. I'm still trying to figure it out to get a good way for feedback myself, because it
Yeah.
takes me a while to reflect. But for me, is boldness. People have told me
Hmm.
countless times that I'm bold. I'm able to speak out. I'm able to share my perspective and my thoughts around issues. So I'll say that for today.
Your boldness is something that is so needed. And we need boldness in all of youth workers to be able to be a strong advocate and a voice for change for young people. And, you know, why in particular is boldness something you're so proud of? Is it because you had such a lack of boldness when you were younger? Does it, like, that 180-degree view of that change that and make you feel so good about that?
So that is one. And then two, why it's very important, because I have seen what boldness does when change is needed. When when there's something that is not going well, we need that someone that will
Hmm.
ask questions, will critically analyze and tell people like, no, hold on, we need ABCD done. There is one or two that is not happening, and you'd find that most people don't have that. They have great ideas, they have great recommendations or things that run in the mind, but they don't want to share them because they lack that confidence to do it. And you never know what you're holding in your heart can do for other people and what it can change to other people. So for me, I'd say I'd rather not keep quiet, rather share it. It might not come out as intended, or maybe it might not be the greatest idea, but trust me, you whatever that I'll say would add one and one become two.
That is incredible that you have such a sense of self confidence now that you can be bold and courageous and say what you need to say. What a transformation. You certainly are an inspiring person who came from being shy to now being bold. It is an incredible story. And we're kind of getting to know you now, but I got a little tougher question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Surprised. Okay. Um Sometimes with all the boldness, I take time sometimes to reflect on the actions and what I think. And sometimes when I sit alone, I tend to visualize and ask myself, what what I did, was it actually right, was it actually correct? And ask myself that particular questions, because sometimes with the boldness and the courageousness, it shadows and you feel like, oh, I can say anything, can be anything, can do anything, but you forget yourself in the end. So I question myself a lot
Yeah.
with the things that I do and even how I do them. And sometimes it reduces my boldness to a certain level because of questioning myself. So not always, but sometimes I do that. Yeah.
Here's what's cool about that, at least from my perspective. So you've learned to cast away your self doubt, but you haven't stopped questioning if what you're doing is right or not. And I think that's a perfect way to describe that self-reflection process, is that it's so important we continue asking ourselves those hard questions, because that is how we get better in our work with young people, and that's how we grow as human beings. So you
Mhm.
didn't shed those questions about, am I doing right, is this the best thing to do, did I say the right thing? You've
Mhm.
learned to manage that. So your self doubt went from being unmanageable to manageable. And now it's got so strong that you can just be courageous with your ideas and your views of things.
And I love it. I love it because then that enables people to see the real me as a person, and I have seen that how it cultivates to meaningful relationships that I make with people. People can are very comfortable working with me because they know they'll get their work done. Someone was telling me yesterday that everyone feels that they are not working with other people, but it's quite different with me because I have a different attitude with that person and we work really well. Yeah.
That's incredible. And I think that our ability to learn to be self reflective and work with other people is required. And just the opposite side of that coin is somebody with too much bravado, too much self confidence, right? And don't ever ask themselves, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? Is also there too, right? Do you know people like that who don't ever have any self doubt and it just leads them to problems and maybe relationship issues, things like that?
Yeah, I have seen it. Sometimes I hear people speak and I'm like, keep quiet, keep quiet. Not because they're not speaking sense, but then at that particular point, you don't have to share your opinion, right? And it puts them in a position where they do not relate well with other people. So I learned that, especially in the diplomacy space or the space that I want to be in. You have to know when to speak, how to speak, to who you're speaking it to, so that it becomes well clear and well delivered. So, with that in mind, I have to be very cautious. Yes, boldness, but at what time? and it's bad for people that always just take spaces, especially advocacy spaces or spaces with government people, to just stand up and start shouting, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not adding this, because at that particular moment they don't even listen. They look at you and just move away, you see. So I had to change it. So it's true, people with that tend to not be listened to, and even every time that that person comes in, they actually are not given time to speak. But like, no, don't give her the time, don't give her the chance to speak, so you end up not sharing your views or opinions. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got wonderful insight into all of this. What do you think the most crucial trait or personality characteristic somebody has to have in order to be good in advocating and supporting young people?
For me, I think it's human. I think we are forgetting to be humans in all these
Oh,
processes. Yeah,
yeah,
we are forgetting. You're putting ourselves. We are doing all this work, but just because we want to. There is a lot of people looking at impact. What is the impact of all this? What is the outcome? Those big words, but we're forgetting those little gestures that people want sometimes, like kindness, like being there for them. Yes, you might want to advocate for a particular issue, but then you have also to go down there and have conversation with people, So we are lacking that with young people, and that is how we are losing them in the process. We are not giving them a listening ear. We are not asking them how they are feeling, what they want. We are forgetting the human nature of people, and that is why now they are rebelling. They're very rebellious, and they very what is it called? They're very abrupt, in their decisions, and critically ask you questions, and you're like, okay, this young person. They don't even. People will say this young person is very disrespectful, but it's not that. It's like a whole process that we've been able to do them has
yeah.
accumulated to that particular person being that person. So for me, I think we should reflect and look at ourselves and add the human nature of us in whatever that we are doing, especially working with young people.
What a wonderful answer. And I think it really does boil down to our compassion and our care and our love for
Mm,
other people, just as strictly because we're all part of the human race, that we have so much in common with each other. And to just let people know that they're cared for and loved for, that can change somebody's life profoundly, just that alone.
mm,
Esha, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you on the podcast and to learn your story of overcoming self doubt, to now be confident, but not ignoring the idea that you still have to be self reflective and ask yourself questions. You
mm,
truly are an inspiration for resiliency and an inspiration of grit and
mm.
determination, and that's what we want in our young people. We want young people to go through the transformation you went through so they can grow up and find their place in the world and feel comfortable and competent in how they fit into our communities. So, thank you for everything you do. And please keep up the great work. It has really been a pleasure to have you as a guest on this episode.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Esha, you know, because we've talked about it. Before
Yes.
we go, what
Mm.
words of wisdom or inspiration would you like to leave with our listeners?
I think mine will go to young people themselves. And I will say, as you continue to evolve and grow, don't forget that little Esha. Don't forget yourself in the process. Remember who you are and where you come from, because it will put you in check. Thank you.